Hi, boys and girls. Today we're going to be looking at a contemporary artist named Tom Abyss Smith. And we're going to look at his art. Now, he currently lives in Norwich, United Kingdom, and he works with contemporary and traditional techniques as well as digitally on the computer. So he makes collage work, he makes paintings, and he works with abstract designs, and he makes still life paintings and drawings. And he kind of mushes a whole bunch of different art concepts together to make his really beautiful artwork. So we're going to take a look at it. We're going to see how he fills his space. We're going to see how he makes still life paintings, and he uses both, as I said, digital format. So he does digital collage. That means he uses his computer to kind of move shapes around and fill his space. And he also does make actual paintings and drawings. And his paintings and drawings are sometimes used to make textiles, so different fabric designs or wallpapers and things like that. So you might recognize maybe some of his artwork, some of his patterns, some of his color usage, and we're going to take a look at Tom Abyss Smith. So this is him. As you can see, he's a young, cool guy, very hip. And even out in front of him, you'll see that his sketchbooks or notebooks have his patterns and designs on them. If we take a look over here, this is one of his paintings, which is kind of this crazy plant with these leaves that are kind of exploding out of it, out of this pot. You see a pencil and you see a piece of paper, and you're assuming that this diagonal line is a table with the background. So he's thinking about the whole space. Here we have some more. Some become a little bit abstract, but he's giving you enough information to know really what you're looking at. So on this one, we have this leaf pattern. I'm not sure what these black shapes are supposed to be, or these squiggles. So we're having some abstract shapes happening here, but he is filling the whole page to create a really colorful composition. Over here, we have what's called a still life, and that's basically a group of everyday objects that don't move, that are still. And even though the colors are kind of creative and a little bit off, this is a type of collage of what appears to be different bowl of fruit. So if we could see, this is probably a pear based on the shape. Maybe this is an avocado, another pear, maybe an apple. And the colors aren't necessarily correct. I've never seen a pear that's this color. Okay, and an apple maybe isn't really this shape, but a bowl probably wouldn't be this shape. But there's a big amount of contrast between a dark background and a light bowl, and this collage is able to overlap all these different shapes to create the fruit. So he is having fun with color. You'll see that there's pattern, and we're going to be using a mixture of drawing and collage for this picture today based on the materials you have at home. So here's another piece of artwork where this would be more for a textile design, where we have, it looks like flowers and leaves kind of filling the whole space. Here we have a vase with leaves and patterns and line. So once again, he's getting creative and filling the space. Some of the information is easily to recognize what it is. So I could really tell easily that this is a vase, but the stuff around it in the background in the space, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm guessing based on the type of organic shapes that I'm seeing that these are plants in the background, and that maybe this little corner here could be a table. So his images are what we call graphic images with bold shape and fun use of color and space. So when we're talking about something that's graphic, it's usually very bold and has clean, crisp edges. So it almost looks like it was made on the computer. Now, some of these were made on the computer and some of them were not. See if you could try and figure out which ones were made on the computer and which ones were not. So he has his graphic art still lifes. Now, these are examples of some of his still life pictures and paintings. And we're going to try and fill our space creating a still life while thinking about how you're going to break up positive space, that's where objects are, and negative space, that's where the empty kind of space is, the air in the room, and how you can fill that with color. Now, if we look at some of these beautiful paintings and pictures, some of them are more realistic, and then some of them are more abstract. So this plant that we looked at the very beginning, pretty much realistic. This is a digital collage. But then when we get into some of these other shapes, you could notice, especially like this one here, it's a little bit more abstract. We have this black and white vase that's collaged in with kind of this wacky swooping blue plant with pink berries growing out. There's a big round circle here. I'm not even sure what that is. He's just having fun with shape and maybe wanting to create repetition because we have the circles of the berries and the big circle here in the background. And then I could recognize this yellow shape as being a lemon. And I'm going to guess that the pattern he's creating here of these crisscrossing lines is probably a tablecloth. So that this way I know that the vase and the lemon are on a table. Here it's harder to see, boys and girls, but we have a blue vase here, and we have this big, giant kind of banana leaf coming out of it. There's a circle here again, maybe that's the sun. And we have some more organic shapes here in the corner, and that would be more of like a plant and a big leaf. So we're gonna see if you're gonna add vases, if you're gonna add a table, if you're gonna have a big, big plant with big leaves, if you're gonna fill the background space with circles or shapes or patterns, or if you're just gonna leave it a solid color, or you're just gonna leave it white. We're going to talk more about that in the tutorial when I show you step by step how you could make your own still life drawing, painting, or collage based on the materials that you have at home, boys and girls, based on Tom Abyss Smith. So I hope that you enjoy this lesson. I hope you think out of the box and think about how to fill that space in a bright, colorful array of shapes, whether they are geometric or organic. See you in a minute. Bye. Hi, boys and girls. Today we're going to be making a drawing and a collage based on the artwork we just looked at from Tom Abyss Smith. Now, obviously, you're going to change this up based on the supplies that you have. You can loosely follow my instructions, but remember, your artwork is your artwork, and you can make it look the way that you would like it to look. But we're going to be making a still life, and I would like you to include at least one vase and at least one part of a plant. Other than that, you can have kind of free reign of how you want this to look. Now, I'm going to start by drawing out and kind of planning out my space a little bit. I know I want to have a vase somewhere. I know I want to have a plant somewhere. So I'm going to start off with that. Now, a vase usually has what's called symmetry. So whatever happens on one side is going to happen on the other. Now, there are a few ways to get symmetry in a vase. You can use a stencil or a scrap piece of paper. I'm going to use part of a magazine that I have at home that I don't need anymore. Please make sure, boys and girls, that you ask an adult before doing this, because if they were not finished reading that article and they didn't want you to cut up their piece of paper, you might get in trouble. And that I don't want. Art should be only a fun experience and you should not get in trouble. So here I have an old magazine piece of paper, and I'm going to use this as a tracer. So if you notice, I folded it in half. The open side I'm not going to touch. The closed side is where I'm going to cut a vase shape. Now, I could just freehand it. That means that I don't draw anything. Or if I want, I can draw half of a vase shape on this paper. That would be half of a vase shape along the folded edge. The folded edge would be in the middle. And then I could use my scissors, or once again, if you need help cutting, ask an adult to help you with this part. And I can use this, get rid of the extra part, and if I open this up, voila, I have a vase shape that is symmetrical. Now, if you don't like the size or shape of this, you can fold it back up, boys and girls, and you can cut it to make it maybe shorter. So I can make it shorter by cutting the bottom off. I could change it again by cutting along the edge. And let's see if we like this shape better, boys and girls. So now I just changed it a little bit and made it like that. Now what's cool about this project is this can be a tracer. So if you want to draw your vase, you could then take your pencil or crayon or whatever you have, and you can trace this so it will give you a symmetrical vase shape. And voila, you have drawn a symmetrical vase shape. Or because we are going to be basing this on Tom Abyss Smith and he did collage, this can be the vase in your picture. So if you want, you can glue this straight down, which is what I'm going to do, because I'm going to make this be my vase. So I am going to get my glue stick. I'm going to put a good amount of glue on there, And right where I drew that vase out, I'm actually gonna glue this piece of magazine. Now this piece of magazine just has words. If it has pictures or color, that's fine too. And what's really cool about this is you could now turn this into 100% all your own type of vase and add more decoration to it. So I can add maybe a zigzag pattern. I'm using marker, boys and girls, but you can use crayon. Crayon will work really well on top of newspaper. It won't work that well on top of magazine because magazine has a really kind of shiny, glossy texture. So if you are using magazine, you might need to use a marker to create patterns or lines on top of it. So here I have added patterns to this vase, and if I'd like, I can also outline it. But I'm not done, boys and girls. Right now I only have a vase. I told you I also wanted you to have some type of plant, and I want you to think about the whole space. So we talked about how Tom Abyss Smith did do collage, which we just did, but we can continue to do that. So maybe in magazines or newspapers that you find different colors. Well, I could make this yellow into maybe, let's see if you could figure out, boys and girls, what I'm going to turn this into. Just like one of his paintings, I can cut out a little football shape, which is going to become my lemon. So I can put my lemon down. Now, if you weren't able to find a yellow piece of paper to make a lemon, well, boys and girls, you can draw one. So you can take a marker, you could take a crayon. I'm gonna put another one over here that I'm gonna draw, and I'm gonna color it in. So here now I have a friend for my lemon. I have two lemons. One is a collage, and one I just drew. And what you can do as well, just like we did with our vase, is you can outline it. Okay, so that is my drawn lemon. Now I want to make a table. So a table, I'm just going to kind of make a line. He made a diagonal line. Now if I make mine here, that means this lemon is kind of floating up in space, which I can absolutely have. That's fine. Or if I want this to be on the table, I would have to make my table line higher. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to make my table line here. Can everyone see that? Okay. Now I want to make some kind of a pattern or something happening on my table. What Mr. Tom Abyss Smith did was on one of his, he did kind of a checkerboard pattern. So I'm going to use, let's see, maybe a purple colored pencil. And I'm going to start by making some lines. And I'm going to work around the objects that I just put on my paper. Because I want those objects to look as though they're on top of the table. If I drew my lines through my objects, then it would kind of flatten out the space and it would look like the lines were on top of the objects. So there I added some lines, and if I want, I can also add lines going in this direction, and that will give me the illusion that there is like a checkerboard pattern. If you've ever played chess or checkers, that type of pattern on my tablecloth. So here I'm really starting to fill my space. I'm starting to get what I consider a graphic still life. That's because all my lines and patterns are very clean and clear. Oh, and I forgot to outline this lemon that I collaged. Now, if you don't want to outline, you don't have to, but it does help to add some kind of clean edges. But I did tell you, boys and girls, that I did want you to have a plant. So you can draw a plant, and I'm gonna start by drawing a plant. I'm gonna make it come up and go out, come up, and go out, come up, and go out, come up, and go out. But those are just lines, boys and girls. They don't really look like leaves. So I want this to be a point, and I'm gonna come back and make that more of the shape of a leaf. Can you see I'm changing that and now making it into a shape so it's not just a line? And I could color that in. So right now I'm using marker, but you can use crayon or colored pencil for this. Or if you have paint, you can use paint. Or I'm going to show you how you can also collage here. Now remember, collage is a French term, basically cutting and pasting paper to make a picture. We've already started to do that a little bit, but I'm gonna look through my magazine until I find some greens. And I definitely found some greens. Now you can draw shapes first. So if you know you want to have kind of leaf shapes happening, I can draw a leaf shape. Okay, I can draw a leaf shape, or if you wanted to just cut it, what's called freehand, you don't have to draw and you could just cut it out. Once again, if you need help cutting, you just ask an adult and they would be happy to help you. Please wait for them to be able to help you. I know a lot of adults are very busy right now working from home, so you guys just take your time and be patient and wait for them to help you cut until they can do that. And here I have some leaf shapes that now I can collage. Now what's cool about the leaves is that they can also overlap with the vase. They don't only have to come out of the vase, or if you want, they can come out of the vase. So that's gonna be up to you. I'm gonna take some glue and put it down, and I could put the glue directly on my paper, or I could put the glue directly on my leaf. So that's gonna be up to you. Uh-oh, I just lost. Where did my other leaf go? Oh, I just found it. Oh, and that's actually kind of cool. This color I like a lot, boys and girls, but sometimes it's fun to look at the back. Maybe that's a really kind of cool shape too that I could use. So, you know, look at both sides of the page, see what shape and color that you wind up liking. And I'm gonna add this into mine. And if you notice, mine even went off the page a little bit. I could let that dangle off. I could fold it back, or I could cut it, okay? So here I have a plant, I have a vase, I have some type of fruit, and I have pattern both in my vase and on my table. So I'm really thinking about this whole space, and I have a still life happening here. Now, if I find other interesting things that I want to add, I can absolutely add it. Like I might want to have berries in my plant, like we just looked at for Tom Abyss Smith. So I found a little bit of an edge of a magazine that has all of this red. So I am going to, as best as I can, cut out kind of round shapes from this. And by doing this, I'm gonna have what I call repetition. So that's when you are able to repeat something again and again and again. And a lot of artists like to do that in work because it gives your eye something to look at and it kind of gives it a space to dance at. So I'm gonna put some glue on my dot and I'm gonna stick it so it looks kind of like a berry growing on my plant. Okay. This is looking kind of nice. I like all the colors that I'm finding because it's almost like going on a scavenger hunt, boys and girls, when you're collaging and looking for color in magazines and in newspapers. All right, so here I have some beautiful things happening, some repetition, but remember he used a lot of bigger circles too. So I'm gonna make a big circle back here in the distance and I'm gonna use, I think, a colored pencil to do that. And I'm going to draw a circle here to kind of be my sun, and I'm gonna color it in, and you're gonna notice because I'm using a colored pencil, I could color right over that leaf that I drew, and you're still gonna be able to see it. So here I'm thinking once again about the whole picture. Everything is being thought about. I'm having repetition, and I have a still life grouping of objects because I have fruit, I have a plant, I have a vase, and I'm repeating shape and filling the whole space. Lastly, if you want, you can fill the whole background. Similarly, I think I'm gonna just use a colored pencil so I don't have to worry too much about overlapping. And I'm gonna use orange to fill the rest of my space because I have not used orange yet in my picture, and I think that will be a really nice way to add some contrast and a new color. And here we go. Let's keep going and fill, fill, fill. Now I don't want to fill over that round shape that I just made because that's all part of being graphic, is being clean and neat with it. So I'm going to go very carefully around that shape. I don't want to color over that. The background I want to be one clean color, and that's why I'm just using this. But if you have watercolors, boys and girls, you could do this with watercolor. If you have paint, go for it. You could do this with paint, and you could add any additional details that you would like. So here I have my still life. If you wanted to add a cast shadow, we can absolutely do that as well, boys and girls. So you can get kind of like a deep purple and go underneath the vase. You could go along the side of the vase, and that will give you a cast shadow. You can even make some of the shape of the plant kind of in the background here. It'll look like that plant is casting a shadow. And if you want, you can also do the same thing for, don't forget our lemons. So I hope you had fun kind of developing the space, using collage, maybe hopefully using different materials. That's called using mixed media. So in here I used newspaper and magazine, glue, colored pencils, and marker. So I'm using a lot of what we call mixed media to create my still life. I hope that you have fun creating your still life. And you can make as many of these as you want, get as creative as you want, use as many materials as you want. The main thing is to fill your space, to use color, line, and shape, and to have fun, boys and girls. So I hope you did all of those things, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.